told me your maiden name was, and you lived on Grand Avenue, and how you got to the schools. Tell me where you were born, first of all.
I was born in Merrill.
You're born here in Merrill. And did you always live on Grand Avenue?
With my folks always on Grand Avenue.
And then you decided to study to be a school teacher.
Yes, sir.
How old were you when? 18?
I was younger than that. I graduated in 1911.
From Merrill High School?
Yes.
1911 from Merrill High School?
Then the next year I went to County Normal.
And then the County Normal. Who was the principal there at that time? McCrary?
No. Part of the time.
Part of the time, McCrary.
And who was...
E.W. McCrary. You don't remember who was the principal there. What did you go for, 1 year at the Lincoln County Normal?
Yes.
1 year you went there. And then you graduated with your diploma in teaching. And then you said that you walked from your home down from Grand Avenue down to Main Street?
Yes, to Anson's Corner.
To where?
Anson's Corner.
Anson's Corner.
On Cottage Street.
Okay.
And got on the streetcar and rode down to the east side to where Plautz's Creamery was then.
Yeah.
And got off the bus there and walked out to the Brickyard School.
Now let's see, just where was the Brickyard School? I've forgotten.
It was on 64 going east.
64 going east. Is it there today, the Brickyard?
No.
How far out from, let's say, the Big Eddie Tavern out there?
Yes, it was about, I would judge about a little better than a mile.
A little better than a mile beyond the Big Eddie Tavern?
Yes.
Uh-huh. And the brick schoolhouse is no longer there?
No.
So this was in the town of Pine River?
Yes.
And how long did you teach at Brickyard? How many years?
I was there 1 year.
1 year? Do you remember anything about your experiences in that Brickyard School? Well, it was a one room, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. It was
How
a
many
one
pupils
room,
did
and
you
had
have?
all grades.
You had all 1 to 8.
Yes.
And how many pupils were in there about?
I would judge about 30.
About 30. And how did you always took a bus, did you say, out there every morning?
I took the streetcar from one end to the other.
Oh,
and got off the streetcar and walked out every morning and came back every evening.
In other words, then the streetcar went from Anson's Corner, which was West Main and must be State Street or Cottage Street? Cottage Street. And then you took the streetcar. And where did that streetcar end?
At Plautz's Creamery, but you know where Beeman's paint store is way down on the side?
Way
well,
down
there. Kitty corner across was a brick building, and that was where Plautz's Creamery was then.
Oh, in other words, the streetcar ended somewhere where Kaler's Corner is right now, then, where the store is.
That's right.
Oh, and then from that point,
I walked out.
You walked?
Every day and back at night.
And back at night. Well, from Kaler's Corners, if that was the terminal, the end of the streetcar line, you walked out there. That had to be 2-3 miles.
Sure it was.
2 or 3 miles.
I don't know just how many miles, but I know that Big Eddie Tavern, I had to pass that and then walk on from there to the schoolhouse. And it was located on the left-hand side.
Which is the north side up there.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, for heaven's sake. And so this is in the dead of winter you did this too.
Yes, sir.
And
every day.
Did you ever miss a day?
I don't think I missed any.
You don't think you missed any?
I don't believe so.
Well, I'm just flabbergasted to think that you did that walk every single day from, let's call it, the end of the terminal of the streetcar line. Oh, what about that streetcar line? In other words, at that time, the streets must have been paved, and there must have been a track in the middle of the road for the streetcar, right?
That's right.
In other words, this was the trolley came before that or after that? Do you remember the trolley? But anyway, this was the streetcar. Mm-hmm. And the streetcars were housed in the old streetcar barn, which is down near the high school, right?
That's right.
I see. What did you pay for that streetcar ride? Do you have any idea?
Oh, I don't remember.
You don't remember the price of that ride there. Do you remember how much you were paid when you taught school at Brickyard?
Well, I imagine it was about $35 a month.
$35 a month. Did you take your lunch then too every day?
Yes.
And
carried a lunch
and then the school started at 8 o'clock?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So really, you were leaving home around 7 o'clock already.
It certainly was.
Certainly at 7 o'clock. And were there any big snowstorms that you recall?
There were some. There had to be. It was winter, and I just don't remember how I did it. But anyway, it was done.
And then of course the Brickyard School. And did you give any programs out there like Christmas?
Oh, sure. Every Christmas and well, I suppose we had a Thanksgiving get together too. And Mr. Hamlin was the superintendent at that time.
I see.
And I also taught under Mr.
Mr. Hamlin. I remember Hamlin.
Yeah.
He was the superintendent at one time. And McCrary was principal down at the normal school at one time. And who the supervisors were came out to visit.
Miss Peacock.
Miss Peacock?
Miss Peacock was a teacher at the county normal.
Oh, I see. She was a teacher down at the county normal. So you stayed there 1 year. Why didn't you stay longer than 1 year?
Well,
it's a very short stay in teaching.
Yes, it is, but the walk was more than than I could take, I suppose, and I think my parents were a little against that too.
That too every day.
So,
that's an amazing thing. And today everybody goes by bus, don't
yes,
they? 2 blocks and they get on a bus.
Or they drive a car.
Or they drive their own car.
That's right.
And in your day, you walked from Grand Avenue down to the corner of Cottage in West Main, took the streetcar, got off near Kaler's Corners, where the end of the streetcar line, and then 2 feet out you went to Brickyard in the month of December, January, February, March. And that was a bad road out there, too, in March.
Well,
pretty muddy, wasn't it?
Certainly I imagine it, but it wasn't paved like they are today, that's for sure.
Well, now,
that would be 1914.
About 1914.
I graduated in 1914.
Well, we had cars then. We had the Model T Ford.
Yeah, but not too many.
Not too many.
No.
So did you ever get any rides? Did anybody pick you up? Or did you...
I don't remember of them.
Don't remember. In other words, there weren't too many cars coming by.
No.
And that must have been a bad road to begin with, 64 out there.
It was like all other roads, wasn't paved or anything like that. Right. So,
Well, then after you stayed there a year, where did you go then?
I went to, up north.
School. Another school up north? See, Brickyard first.
North of Merrill.
North Star? Chat?
Yeah.
Chat School.
Chat School.
Oh, do you realize Chat School is still there?
Yeah, but it's deteriorating fast. I heard someone say the other day that it should be...
Yes, demolished.
Yes.
Torn down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's still there. Dilapidated condition.
Yes.
But it's still there and looks the same, undoubtedly, from the days when you taught there.
I suppose so.
And that must have been around 1912 or 13. Must have been there.
That was the 3rd year after I graduated from Normal. And I graduated from Normal in 1912.
1912. That was 15 then.
Yeah.
1912, you graduated from the county normal. So, well, all right now. So here you are, living on Grand Avenue again. And you get on... How do you get out there to Chat?
I boarded with folks by the name of Gates. Mr. and Mrs. Jim Gates.
Well, out there near the...
Near the school.
Near the school.
I imagine about a half a mile from the school.
You know, we know where that school is, but I think we ought to pinpoint it so that if anybody listens to this tape, they'll know where it is. You go out today on Highway 51, and you go out to the corner, which is a corner which would turn east to go to what is known now as Lincoln Hill School. And when you leave 51, going east to Lincoln Hill School, it's right on the corner of 51 and the Lincoln Hill School Road. That's where the Chat School is. So you stayed out there then with Mr. and Mrs. Gates?
Gates.
Gates. How far did they live from the school?
I would judge about a half a mile. Not too far.
So this was a different walk, wasn't it?
Yes, I'll say.
And you had all 8 grades?
Yes.
And you had how many, would you say, in the school?
Well, I usually had about 30.
About 30. And then when you were out there, Mr. Hamlin was still the superintendent?
Still the superintendent.
Still the superintendent came out to visit you. Do you recall any experiences of your school days out there that you do recall? Anything? Now, you're just a little woman. You must have been a little girl. So that you couldn't have given anybody a whipping. You couldn't have said, now, just a minute, John, get over my knee and I'm going to spank you.
No, I never did that.
Never did?
No. I think I was stern enough to make them understand that I meant what I said.
You meant what you said.
And that was it. I don't remember ever thrashing anyone.
Never thrashing them. Isn't that strange? Because in that day of 1915, there was such a thing as if an individual didn't behave, he was given a spanking, either with a hand, but you couldn't have done it.
I didn't.
But you were just a stern school teacher. Hard to believe because you're so sweet and petite now, but you were stern.
Well, I thought I had to be.
Thought you had to be. Again,
I think if they respect you and know that you mean what you say, they will listen.
They will listen. So that you don't have any of those experiences. Again, you never were stuck in the snow during the winter. You only had a half-mile walk. So you got there every day.
I sure did.
Who heated that school for you? Had to be warm when you got there?
No.
Well, it was cold?
I started the fire in the morning.
You started the fire?
We filled up. We had those round stoves, that had a jacket all the way around.
Yeah.
And that was plenty of wood was put in there in the evening, and that kept it from freezing anyway.
So that when you got there in the morning,
it was cold.
It was cold, and the fire was out.
Yeah.
And the ashes were dead. So you started it with a match and a piece of paper and kindling wood.
I suppose that's what...
And you had to... Now then, come on. You know that very well. That what time did you get there to school to do this?
Well, I suppose I had to... I had to get there at least by 8.
8. School opened at 9?
Yes.
So you were there before 8. Now you mean to tell me that in an hour's time you had that one-room school as warm as toast?
Well, I wouldn't say it was as warm as toast, but I don't think that I got... Maybe I started out earlier, but I don't remember that. That's so many...
Yeah, so many years ago. But you did you had wood.
Oh, yes.
And the farmers brought in this wood and cut it. Was the wood put right in the schoolhouse too?
No.
Where'd you put that? Outdoors?
A woodshed.
Oh, you had a woodshed.
Mm-hmm.
So some of your boys would bring it in and
yes.
You'd have enough.
The wood box in the hall.
In the hallway.
And then you had a supply, and when that was gone, then they'd do the same thing again.
Some more wood in there. And that jacket supplied the heat. I'm interested in the outdoor facilities. Now, they had to have toilets in those days. Did you have an outdoor toilet?
Yes.
Two, one for the boys, one for the girls, and it was outdoor.
Outdoors.
And all the while you were teaching there, that was the standard operating way of going to the toilet.
Yes.
Had to go outdoor, even though it was 30 degrees below zero.
Even though it was 30 below zero.
Now, out at Shack School, do you have any idea how far it was for a certain youngster? In other words, did a certain youngster have to walk a distance of 3 miles, let's say, from the school?
I don't think any of those youngsters had to walk that far. They were pretty close.
They were close.
I'd had some folks who went to school to me there that come here to visit me, and we talked about the school days then. But I don't think that
they didn't have too long a distance to walk. None of them came with a horse or a pony?
No.
None of them came with a, in the winter, with a sleigh and a horse and a sleigh?
Unless the parents brought them occasionally, if it was stormy or something like that. But, no, they walked.
They walked. And what about...
Carried their lunch.
They carried their lunch, so that you always had your lunch period there, and they all had...
During the noon hour.
During the noon hour. Mm-hmm. And you went up till 4 o'clock then?
Yes.
And then school was dismissed, and you took yourself and walked back to the Gates. Yes. Are the Gates still there?
No. Their name is Gates.
Gates.
Gates. Jim Gates, Mr. and Mrs.
Gates.
No, they aren't there. They're dead long ago.
Do you have any pictures of the old chat school when it was in good shape?
I don't think so.
You don't think so, huh? You don't even have a picture now that it's dilapidated?
No.
You know, it's one of the few schools, I guess, that remains. All the other schools are used for homes. For example, North Star, someone's living in it. Mm-hmm. Shoal Spur, someone's living in it. Mm-hmm. Pine Grove School. Did you know that I taught at Pine Grove School?
No.
You know where the Pine Grove School is, out on 107? You know where Rock Island is, Herbie Hintz's tavern?
Yes.
There's a school out there.
Oh, yes.
Pine Grove. I want you to know that I taught there for 2 years. Year 1930, 31. Year 1931, 32. Then I went on to college and got my degrees and left. So some of the experiences I had were the same as yours. Well, the only thing is I didn't start my fire. I had a boy come in to do it. Another thing is I drove my car out during the easy months, like September and October and May. But then you never had an automobile.
No.
So you had to do it all on foot. Well, now we have the chat school. We talked about that, and I don't. You say some of your pupils still come back now and see you?
Yes, we've visited together since I've been here, and the thing was, I think that I moved so often. My aim was to get into a school like state graded. I taught, after I left Chat, I went to the state graded school at Gleason.
At Gleason?
At Gleason. And that was my aim, that I'd be able to go there. So during the summer, the year before I went there, I went to Milwaukee to the state normal. In order to get credit, so that it would allow me to teach at the state graded.
At state graded.
And I had Dr. Byer for one of my pupils.
Lester Byer?
Yes.
The MD?
Yes.
Where, up at Gleason?
At Gleason.
Well, this is amazing that Dr. Byer is still around.
Yes, he's
Yes, and as a matter of fact, I've been thinking of getting him on tape as early medical experiences, and I'm going to do it. So Dr. Les Byer was one of your pupils up at Gleason.
Yes, and
how do you like that?
See, the father was the doctor there.
Oh, Les' father?
Yes, he was the doctor at Gleason.
Yes,
and so Lester and what was the other boy, the other brother's name? One was in the 6th and one in the 5th grade. And so I've known Doc Byer for a long, long time.
Why, how wonderful.
Yeah.
And why did you go to Milwaukee Normal? Why didn't you go to Stevens Point Normal?
There was no Stevens Point Normal then.
There was no Stevens Point Normal.
I'm sure there wasn't, because otherwise we would have gone to a place that was closer by.
So then you went to Milwaukee Normal, and you got what is known...
For a summer session.
Summer session. And then they gave you a certificate for teaching in state graded schools.
Yeah.
And then when you got to Gleason, and you taught in a state graded school, how many grades did you have?
3.
Which ones? 1, 2, and 3?
4, 5, 6.
4, 5, and 6. So that there were, only 2 teachers in the whole school?
1st, 2nd, 3rd was under one teacher.
Sure.
And 4th, 5th, 6th under another. And 7th and 8th under a principal.
Under a principal. Is that school still there in Gleason? That state grade school?
It was the last time I haven't been up that way for...
There. Well, there is a school up there, and I wondered, it probably still is there, the same
I don't think it's used for school purposes. I think they have a new school up in that area.
And they bring it. How many years did you teach at Gleason then? Well, at least more than 4 years?
No, I don't think any more than 4.
But you taught up there. Well, anyway, you taught at Gleason, and you stayed up there too, didn't you?
Yes, I boarded with the Mantis.
The Mantis.
They had the store there then.
I see. And then, in order to, a weekend, you came home?
Occasionally. The only way of getting home was if my father came and got me, or if I took the caboose and rode down on the freight train.
Oh, you had a caboose in
Mr. Lane. Oxy Lane.
Yeah.
You remember his father was the
conductor.
Yes, and occasionally I rode down in the caboose to get home.
To get home. Could you go back? You could go back the same way then in the caboose. Go back up there.
Well, if I waited till Monday morning, but usually my father took me back.
He had a car.
No, with a horse and buggy.
Horse and buggy had to come all that distance too.
So I didn't go home too often.
Oh my goodness! And so that was horse and buggy days of Gleason. Well, now then, where did you go from Gleason? What school?
That was the end.
That was the end of your teaching?
That was the end of my teaching.
I see. Then you got married, I assume.
Married.
So what was your maiden name?
Stagey.
How do you spell that?
Staege. My folks live on Grand Avenue in the 800 block. Lived. Montgomery. Does that ring a bell?
No, not to me, but I have it pinpointed, yes. I see.
Who were some of the
And so then you got married, and that was the end of your school teaching days.
Yes.
Well, those are some mighty interesting experiences. Things have changed today, haven't they?
Oh, I should say that.
From one thing is, the mere fact, discipline has changed, hasn't it? Another thing is, of course, you were wonderful. You never used a hand on a child. You never used a ruler on his fingers. You never spanked. And yet today, they say, oh, don't you dare touch the child or we'll sue. Everybody's suing. And yet, you were able to command respect. How'd you do that today?
I don't know. I just, and I don't think I was terribly stern, but I think if you tell the youngsters a thing and they understand that you mean it, they better do what you ask.
Another thing is you were pretty smart. You had to be smart. Yes, you did, because you had to impress the 7th and 8th graders who were 13, 14, even 15 years of age. And you had to impress them that you knew what you were talking about. Do you mean to tell me you were good in all those subjects you taught, like arithmetic?
Well, you want to remember that they were not 13, 14, 15, 16, because I had the intermediate children.
Up at Gleason?
First, second, third, and then fourth, fifth, sixth. Mm-hmm. Now, they might have been 12 at that time, but they were not 14, 15, 16. They were not that old.
Mm-hmm. I see. But you did know all this. You had to teach all the subjects.
All the subjects. Reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Did you feel that the youngsters got a great deal out of that by when you were teaching up in front of the room, let's say at Brickyard School, you were teaching the 3rd and 4th grade. Remember, the 5th, 6th, and 7th and 8th were sitting there, and they were listening, weren't they?
They better be.
And they were learning something all the way, weren't they?
That's right. Unless they were busy with their work. Their class might be the next one that came up, and they had to be prepared.
And so today we're going to the open room school system, which is the old thing we had back in the country school at Brickyard.
Yes.
The same idea. Instead of having each grade completely separate, we're using the open school system. Well, now I have really run out of questions and about Chat School and about the Gleason School, and you're getting there and coming back and taking your meals there and where you roomed. I also taught after I was married.
there was a vacancy up at Beeson, and I went back to finish the year. And then I was called, Miss Evu called me out to Pine River, way out. The teacher quit at Christmas time, and I went back there then. And, well, that was the end of my teaching career.
That was the end of your teaching career. I see. So that now you have fond memories and of your teaching experience. And you must have impressed some people, because I was told to come here, you see. I was told that you had some very interesting experiences, and I think you have told us some remarkably good experiences. Is there anything else you want to tell us?
Now, let's see. I thought of one thing a little while ago. Gone with the wind.
Gone with the wind. Well, you see, we're talking, and so it went about the teaching experience. Well, I'll tell you, we have been talking here 25 minutes. Actually, we could be talking for a few more before we come to the end of this tape. But I think now that we'll terminate this, and Mrs. Myrtle Schumacher, it's been a pleasure talking to you, getting the experiences, and is there anything now that you want to say as you call it?
I enjoyed every bit of my teaching in the country. I would have liked to have gone on, to teach in the city, but that was impossible. So I'm just glad.
So you were satisfied, yes, and you were happy with what you did.
You mentioned an experience.
Right.
When I taught, the first year I taught, I became very lonesome.
Oh, yes.
And the only way I had of getting back into town was to ride in on a load of logs.
On a load of logs.
And I remember that. I'll never forget it. The folks that I boarded with.
Now, was this, when you came on a load of logs riding back, did you come from Chat School?
No, from
Beeson?
From Corning, from the first school that I taught.
Hey, we forgot to get Corning School on here then. Well, you were at Corning.
I was at Corning the first year I taught.
How'd you get out there?
Well, my father took me out weekends when I came home, but I didn't always come home every weekend. But when I was too lonesome, then Mr. Schultz, Otto Schultz's I boarded with, and he often took a load of logs in on Saturday, and they bundled me up and set me on the load of logs, and I rode to town.
Well, you were lonesome.
Yeah, I was lonesome.
And you wanted to get in, and he came with a sleigh and a load of logs.
That's right.
And he was bringing in the school teacher from Corning.
That's
what do you call that school? The Corning School?
Corning School.
Where was that located in town?
That was straight out on 64.
Straight out
as
west.
Far as you can go.
As far as you can go.
Where the Emmanuel Church is now.
Where I know where that is.
Well, you go to that, and then you turn south. I think it's a mile across there, and then a little bit toward the west again.
And did you teach there for 1 year?
Yes.
I see. Mm-hmm. Well, we've got all these teaching experiences. Thank you very much, Mrs. Myrtle Schumacher, and we'll end this interview now.
Well, thank you very much. It's an opportunity I've never had before.
And we are going to keep these tapes at the public library. They may be used by anybody who wishes to hear them. If eventually the Merrill Historical has a museum, we hope that this will be, and we're delighted to have you on this tape, and we'll remember it, therefore.
Thank you very much for coming.